All right, so I should be live. I was trying to get it to work before, but for some reason the live stream was not working. I don't know why, but I think it should be running now. So let me know in the chat if you guys can hear and see me, because the stream didn't even. Because the thing is, my desk where I'm at now is smaller, so I can't have both computers here. And for whatever reason, my phone said that it's not. The stream is not turning on. You see, like, why does it say that? I'm so confused. Why does it? What's going on? Okay, there we go. All right, perfect. Now we're live. All right, good. Okay. Sorry for the late start, but yeah. So now we are live. All right. I don't know why the previous broadcast for some reason just didn't work. I don't know exactly why that was happening. But what's up, everyone? Welcome back to On Point Politics, and today we're going to be discussing how Trump basically saved the GOP from pretty much being an unwinnable party. Now, if you guys do enjoy this, please hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to follow Twitter, and join the Discord in the description down below. And so, guys, before, in the 2000s, 2008, Republicans, the thing with 2008 is that McCain had an extremely narrow path to the presidency. Like, I'm talking about very narrow. There was a point where he was leading Obama at some point, but Texas was up for grabs. Georgia wasn't really. Arizona was not. New Mexico and Colorado were basically guaranteed to go to Obama. I think maybe Colorado was up for grabs, according to polls. Same thing with Nevada. Alaska was safe. Minnesota, Michigan were basically locked up for Biden. And I even think Wisconsin at the time was as well. And now that we're looking at this, we can see that this was effectively the swing state map before Obama was at a pretty strong point in the presidency. I even think that Obama actually also won the first district as well. If we go back to 2008, he did not win the first district, but he did win Nebraska's second by a really close margin. And so effectively, this was the toss-up map before. Basically, McCain had to win Florida, he had to win North Carolina, and he had to win Pennsylvania and Ohio to basically win. Now, the numbers are not exact because what I was saying was the numbers are not exact because the electoral apportionment's a little bit different. But essentially, that would have gotten him to a victory, and possibly not even. He might have needed an Iowa at the time in order to come in kind of and win the electoral college. Basically, Nevada didn't even get him the victory. This was a path that he could have taken as well, but more than likely he probably would have lost Nevada, he would have lost Colorado, Iowa, and so really his path to the presidency was effectively this. But it turned out on election day, Obama won all these states. Virginia, North Carolina went blue. That went blue. Indiana even went blue at that point. And Nebraska second also went Democrat as well. And so this was the final map, if I'm not mistaken, for the 2008 election. And so, what's up, J Clips, how you doing? So pretty much this is the map from 2008, and Obama had a pretty easy time defeating McCain. McCain basically had a very steep path to the White House. Effectively, he would have needed, if we were really going to play it like this, really his path would have been through basically here. And even still, Obama is favored to win, even with all of this. So this was effectively, if you were to put all the safe states at +5, for a poll or something like that, potentially, what you see is that Obama was already favored in Ohio, and he's already winning the electoral college, by the way. He's already winning it, already, without even any additional states. So McCain would have needed to run up the score in every single swing state. He would have needed every single one. Then it would have needed Iowa, then Nevada, and he still wouldn't have even been able to win the electoral college. More than likely, Virginia would have been the state to put him there, but he didn't even come close. In 2008, it was a 6-point victory for Obama outside the polling error, and so that effectively would have put McCain on top. McCain would have had a pretty hard path to the presidency at that point, and you could even make the case that Nevada wouldn't have not even gone. So he probably would have not even picked up Nevada. He probably would have ended up getting this map. And based out of electoral apportionments, I don't even think this would have given him the electoral college. I think he would be at 268, 269 in this scenario. because Florida has gained a lot of electoral votes. So if we actually go to 2008, you're going to see something pretty interesting. Wrong year. If we go to 2008, for example, you're going to see over here that even if, McCain would have ended up winning, the states that I mentioned, Indiana, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, and Iowa, he still would have been losing the electoral college. So even in that scenario, he still would have been losing. Even winning Nebraska's second would have not even put him on the top. So he basically got all the swing states under 5 points here, and he still, even including Iowa, which was actually a 9-point win. I'm actually going to look and see what would have been the closest state for him to win. It looks like Virginia would have been his state. That would have been the tipping point state, and he still doesn't even win in the electoral college. He still doesn't even win Virginia. So really, Obama was out here basically guaranteed 291 electoral college votes, which is very, very interesting. And so that is the map that Republicans had to work with before, and they had to run up the score in some, places that usually Trump does not have to run up the score, and he had a floor of, 160. He ended up getting 163 in the 173, my bad. And the Nebraska second would have been toss-up as well. So this was basically the expanded battleground map, as a 5-point margin for all the safe states. So Obama was able to win this pretty comfortably in the electoral college. I believe that he did not win these, and this would have gone blue as well. So this was the map. Now, going to 2012, this is also what I explained in my latest video. If we go to 2012, what's interesting about this is that, yes, Romney made gains in Indiana and North Carolina. He was able to flip those states. But even with the states under 5 points, basically Mitt Romney would have not been able to win, because if you look, he starts at 191 and Obama is sitting right at 272 electoral votes. Pretty much he's sitting right there. Nebraska's second was a 7-point win for Romney. He won Arizona by 9, Texas by 15, Georgia by 7, and these were the states that were under 5 points that entire cycle. The next state he probably would have needed to have won, it was probably Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure this was the closest state, and this would have been Mitt Romney's path to the White House. He would have had to have done pretty decent in the East Coast per se. He would have needed to have done well here, and he fell short in the electoral college. And so basically what happened was, then when Trump came around, the thing is, people believed that his floor was lower. People believed that, this was the final map, but at the time, they didn't even have, Wisconsin was toss-up, Michigan, Pennsylvania were basically safe, Maine second was effectively a state. The actual battleground map would have looked something like this. This would have actually been the legit battleground map for that whole cycle of actually, get rid of all the states here. Even Maine second wouldn't have even been in that column, and Nebraska second would have been a toss-up district if you look at North Carolina and Florida. So they're actually pretty even on this battleground map. They were pretty even, but people believe that, New Mexico was safe, Nevada was safe for Hillary, Michigan, Pennsylvania was safe, Texas was competitive, Missouri, South Carolina, Mississippi, and Louisiana back then, even people, Ohio, Iowa at that point were toss-ups, Montana, Utah was a toss-up. So they were putting polls, even because Steve Kornacki had Trump basically at this, effectively. He had Trump at basically at 77 electoral votes, and I think he had Hillary winning Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina. She had her winning Arizona or something like that. Having her win Florida, Colorado was a foregone conclusion. So the battleground map, by the crazies, basically looked like this, which was super inaccurate because Hillary never came close to even getting 300 electoral votes. The real floor this election, Texas should not be included. All these red states should have not been included. Iowa and Ohio were basically not even swing states. Neither was Georgia or even North Carolina. Well, North Carolina technically was a swing state. Florida was. Utah was not. You had these kind of up in the air. You had Minnesota. The Rust Belt was effectively up for grabs at the time when looking at an actual battleground map. And Nebraska's second was not even comparable. So they were about tied here. Trump just needed to win Florida, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. He would have fallen short, but he probably could have gotten Nebraska second, which he did. So basically, no matter what, Trump was pretty much destined to tie, because the state with the largest amount of votes was Pennsylvania. And just because the margin there was closer than Pennsylvania, was closer than Wisconsin there, doesn't necessarily mean that Wisconsin would have flipped first, because, well, that Pennsylvania or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. Like, Wisconsin would have flipped first because it had less people to flip at that point in time. So basically, Wisconsin would have given Trump the path to get there, but he still would have needed something else. Effectively, he would have needed Arizona, and so this was his straight shot path to the White House. He needed to focus on Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, and Wisconsin. That was his straight shot to the presidency back in 2016. And a lot of people, it's pretty interesting, because the thing is that everybody had Trump basically guaranteed to lose the election, and that was not the case at all. There was a poll that had Clinton up by 1 in Texas. People were saying Alaska was competitive, that Georgia was gonna flip, that Iowa and Ohio, that basically the entire Rust Belt was like guaranteed to go Democrat, with like New Hampshire. And so this map was not looking good for Trump. This was effectively what a lot of people thought the toss-up map was. This is what a lot of people thought it was. Even Missouri, a lot of people thought that Hillary in Montana, even some people thought she would have had a shot. So this was the fake news battleground map. But in reality, this that I showed you guys earlier is the actual battleground map of the presidential election. This effectively would have been the real battleground map, and that's not even with Georgia, being competitive, because it was over a 5-point win. So this would have been the 5-way map. Now in 2020, what was interesting is that everybody, for whatever reason, thought that Trump was going to lose by over 350 electoral votes, like Let's Talk Elections did. And pretty much what ended up happening was they basically had, the Rust Belt pretty much guaranteed to go to Biden, which, not going to lie, I did have the Rust Belt basically all filled in. The only state that I thought could have had a chance was probably Wisconsin. That was about it. Arizona, I kind of had it as a toss-up. Georgia, I also did, but I had it leaning Trump. And so just to kind of set the record straight, my election prediction back in 2020 was Joe Biden 278 to 268. These were the 3 states or 3 districts and slash states that I basically got wrong. So out of all of the states, if you add up, these electoral votes, essentially I was, pretty accurate. If we go and we kind of apply these and we subtract them here, we're going to actually see that I was able to get the election correct with 94% accuracy, which is one of the most accurate predictions. I am one of the most accurate predictors for the 2020 election that is known. And so clearly, even Red Eagle thought Wisconsin and Pennsylvania were going to go. I didn't necessarily think so. He even thought, I think he had Nebraska second going red or blue or something like that, but this was his map. Now, you would have been like, oh, well, that's kind of wrong, but in reality, not necessarily. He kind of did somewhat decent, actually. And Wisconsin, for LTE, this was his map. He ended up predicting North Carolina was going to flip. He had Arizona flipping. He had Florida flipping. He even had Ohio going there. I think he also even had, or maybe it was Georgia that I think he had going. I think it was about here, and then he had Nebraska second going Democrat. This was his map, which he got a lot of states wrong. He basically got Florida and North Carolina wrong. So he was also a little bit, me and him theoretically, according to, margin-wise, I guess, it's sort of more like we're around the same level of accuracy, but his fundamentals when it came to his prediction were severely off. He had Wisconsin, if we actually go back to his YouTube channel, talk elections, we're going to actually see that he was really off in some of the margins. Me and Red Eagle realistically were a bit closer, to predicting the 2020 race than even he was. If we actually look at it, he actually even made a video on his
This is SEMrush,
predicting
the digital marketing platform that helps your business grow on all channels.
This was his map.
Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, November 12th, 2020, and today we're going to be that's going to favor Biden or Trump.
And this was his map. Look, he had Wisconsin likely, he had Michigan likely, and the main second safe R. He had Nebraska's second lean, so he even got that wrong. He had Missouri, Mississippi, South Carolina. South Carolina's margin was correct, but Mississippi, Missouri, and Indiana were wrong. Montana was wrong. Utah was wrong for sure. Kansas was theoretically correct. Colorado and New Mexico were also correct. Minnesota and Virginia were right, as well as New Hampshire, but with the Rust Belt was completely off here. He had Pennsylvania as lean. He had Arizona as lean Democrat. He had Maine's second district as a tilt Republican district. And he even had Nebraska's first as going likely, which I think it did. It went exactly 14.9%, but he had North Carolina tilt blue, and he had Florida tilt blue, and he had Texas tilt R. So that's not good either. And Georgia, he actually did get Georgia right, and he got Pennsylvania right, but he did not get, North Carolina or Florida right at all. My margins were a little bit different than that. My Florida margin was 1.8%. It was similar to the 2016 victory. North Carolina, I expected him to win it by 2.5. I thought he was going to win Georgia by a point or so. I thought the polls were going to be accurate there. Arizona, I actually had it going tilt Republican, so I was very close there. Nevada, I still had it lean. Colorado, New Mexico, I had them likely. Texas, Iowa, Ohio, I had those as likely states on the electoral map, as well as Alaska. South Carolina and Kansas, I did not have them, though. Nebraska's second, I actually thought it was going to go Republican, just because I thought, well, there's no way Trump is going to lose a district in Nebraska by, if he's winning the state by about 17, 18 points. But I didn't understand how several districts were working back then. I had Minnesota lean, Wisconsin was tilt, Michigan was lean, and Pennsylvania was tilt. And I had kind of the Northeast. I had New Jersey likely, and I had New Hampshire as a lean margin, and I had Virginia as a likely state on the electoral map. So this was my prediction. I mean, it's relatively comparable to the 2020 result. I mean, it's really not that off compared to, this was my result, and which was way more accurate than LTE ever was. And I believe that this was pretty similar to what Red Eagle Politics also had it at. He had Michigan lean, I believe, and he had Wisconsin and Pennsylvania going red. He had Georgia a point. I think he had Arizona tilt as well. So it was relatively almost the same. He had Florida tilt red, though, so he was wrong about that. I kind of expected Trump was actually going to do better in Florida. As for Texas, I thought it was going to be a 7 or 8 point win. Colorado, I thought it was going to be a 7-point win. New Mexico, at the time, I didn't understand that Denver was growing a lot. So I had New Mexico as a 9-point victory for Biden at that point in time. New Jersey, I had it likely because I looked at the electoral map here and I was like, oh, it's a likely state. So it's probably going to go likely because it was one of the closer ones or whatever. That's what I was thinking at the time. And if we're really comparing this to the electoral map, I mean, there is no, it is pretty solid. It's actually very, very solid. My prediction was really not that off. Even if we go here and we kind of... if we go here and we have, the map listed out, I actually memorized all the margins for these states here. I'm using plus 15 just to compare by accuracy for the most part. So that's basically what I'm doing right now. But I've already memorized the margins for 2020 at this point. So this was the electoral college result, with Alaska being likely and Kansas being likely. This was the result in the election there. And if you look at mine, it's really not that off. It's not. It's just simply not even, it's really not that far from what the actual victory was in 2020. And right now I'm combining my model with Gold Crown Politics' model. His model actually predicted the entire election correct. Now the margins were a little bit wonky, but he was able to predict every single state. He could have betted on the election, and it probably ended up he could have made a couple of $1,000 betting on the election because he got the entire map correct. And the reason why I know that he's not really trolling about that, or pretending he did, is because his model, the only thing you need to kind of really plug in per se is the estimated popular vote, and he had Biden winning the popular vote by like 5.2, and he actually won by 4.9 or 4.5%. And so in Georgia, he predicted a 0.6 percentage point win for Biden, and the actual result was 0.2. I think in Texas he predicted like a exact like 5.1%, which was close. His margins were a little bit different. He uses like 2 to 7 as lean for some reason, and like 7 to 12 as likely. So his likely and lean margins are a little bit off, but using plus 15, I really wasn't that off. I was fairly accurate compared to Let's Talk Elections, and I got more states correct than Red Eagle. And I'm trying my best to, even though I do like, Trump more, I really want to make sure that I am as accurate as humanly possible, and I am unbiased as I possibly can be. And that's why I'm trying to use models, and I'm trying to use this, and I'm talking to people, because I really want to make sure that I'm as accurate as possible, because it's in my name. It's On Point Politics. There's no point, if the channel, if I get it, seriously wrong, that's going to be a big problem, and I'm going to have to address that in the future. However, right now, looking at polling data, Trump seems to be really in a good spot, because he's winning by about 3.2% in the 5-way aggregate. His approval rating is 44.1%. Biden's is 40.1%. And so if you were to plug in like the aggregate here, which has, basically Biden winning the election, or it swings the popular vote, 7.7 points to the right, and you have the approval rating from today, and then you have the popular vote here at, I believe the margin's like, I think it's 4, because it's 44.1 minus 40.1 between their approval ratings. That's a +4 national environment, and that shifts the election 9.5, or I believe it's like 8.5% to the right. Yeah, it is. It's going to be 8.5% to the right. And so basically, looking at that electoral model, Trump is expected to win fairly easily, actually. He actually wins very easily. I actually did upload an election prediction yesterday, but the funny part about that, or not yesterday, it was today, but the funny part is that the aggregate updated, and it actually kind of changed some of the classifications for Trump, to the point where even in like, Wisconsin, he's basically winning it by a safe margin. He's winning it by over 10 points. And if you want me to do plus 15, all the regular swing states were within a likely margin. If we're doing plus 15, this was the map. Illinois is within literally 3 points according to the model, flipping. Colorado is lean. California is likely on the map. It's a little bit over safe on this map. And if we look at a state like Hawaii, it's actually below 15 points, so it would go likely. Texas in this scenario, even Texas is an 18-point win, and Florida would more than likely accompany that, and so that would make the state safe. And if you look at, for example, Arizona is a 10-point win. Georgia's a 10.9 percentage point victory. So all the swing states effectively go super likely Republican. Even North Carolina is a 13-point win. Nevada is basically a likely margin as well. We could see here it's an 11.9 percentage point margin of victory. Washington and Oregon are also likely margins. Alaska would be safe in this scenario. Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, Vermont would be there, and Connecticut would be a likely state, as well as Delaware. And we can go down here, and we'll also see, places like Rhode Island, also be there, and even New Jersey. So that's also going to be electoral poison for Biden as well. And if we look at Virginia, Trump's actually winning that by a tilt margin. According to the model, he's up in Minnesota by 1.2% approximately. And in New Mexico, he's actually up in New Mexico by 2.9 percentage points. So he's winning New Mexico quite comfortably. Even New York is a likely margin of victory. You could see that it's a 10.4 percentage point margin. And if we look at Nebraska second, it's going to be, a pretty big victory for Trump. He's going to end up winning it by 3.6%. And Maine second is safe. Maine's first is likely in this hypothetical scenario. And if we look, Maine at large actually flips Republican. And if you look at New Hampshire, we can see that, Trump is currently winning it by 0.3 percentage points. So that puts Trump at 347 electoral college votes to Biden's 191 as of right now with the current data that we have. And this is a pretty big victory for him. I mean, he's winning a lot of the swing states by pretty large margins for the most part. I'm going to look at chat and see what they're saying. Chicago for Trump. Take care. All right, Stefan. All right. If you can't follow up with the stream, then it is what it is. I got to keep everybody engaged. So if you can't follow up with me, I mean, it is what it is. You could even probably put me in. You could put my playback speed slower if you want, but I'm not going to, I feel like I'm talking at a reasonable pace because I have to keep everybody engaged. If I was talking super slow, people would be leaving the stream left and right. Yep, I don't see the conviction making much of a difference at all. If Trump gets convicted, just give him the keys to the White House at that point. This scenario is unlikely. Winning Virginia would be insane, but it's fun to see. I mean, yeah, 100%. I'm not saying he's guaranteed to win any of these. There's probably a pretty big margin of error. I'd say the margin of error in the model probably ends up being something like this, but I mean, he's winning Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada by so much that even the model, I can't see it, underperforming. I'd say maybe there's like a 5 point, even if there's a decent amount of error, it's at most probably 5 points more than likely. So Trump would still be guaranteed, even if the model was off by 5 points in every state. Which it's not. It's going to be off by a certain amount in each individual state, which is going to be accounted for in 2028. But if we look at this, we're going to see that, Nebraska's second would be blue. So even in a scenario where Trump is, really, in fact, underperforms the model, Trump still ends up winning. Now, I would be pretty wrong because I get Minnesota wrong, Virginia, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Maine at large wrong. Like, I would be pretty incorrect if that were to actually happen. So, but I would at least still have Trump winning. There's some people who don't believe Trump's going to win at all, and I'd be relatively closer to predicting that, if it wasn't the case. Now, do I think Trump's going to be leading the aggregate by 3.2%? Probably not. Again, I'm one of those people who thinks Biden may end up overtaking the aggregate at the very end of the year, possibly, and Biden's approval, I suspect, may even end up probably improving by like around 3 points. So if we were to do that, let's say he's up in the aggregate by a point. Now it shifts the election 3.5% to the right. And let's say the popular vote estimation for me is probably Trump +1 or something like that. Like, that's probably what it would be. And that shifts the election 4.5% to the right. Even in that scenario, Trump still wins the Electoral College super easily. He wins all the swing states. He loses Nebraska second, and he gets the 312 electoral vote victory. He gets this exact win in the Electoral College, even if we were to shift the aggregate quite a bit. Now, of course, there'd be room for margin of error, but I mean, I don't think the model is necessarily going to be that off to the point where if Trump's winning in a landslide in the model, I don't think Biden would necessarily be winning either. And so that's kind of my whole gist with it. And so let me see, how confident are you in a Trump victory as of right now? I'd say probably like a 55% chance. I think he's the pretty decent favorite, not like over 60%. That'd be insane, but I think he is favored by about 55% as of right now. And so that's pretty much what I'm kind of thinking of right now in terms of the betting markets. I think he's probably up 55% of 45% for the most part. I think he takes Georgia, North Carolina. At this point, I think Biden's probably DOA there. I also think he's DOA in Nevada as well. So I think Trump's floor this election is 257 electoral votes. That's probably his floor because the polling in Nevada looks super bad for Biden. Like, it looks terrible. Now, New Hampshire, the polling looks good. Virginia looks okay. Minnesota, it's close enough for me to put in the toss-up. Maine, he's actually leading in the aggregate. He's leading by 3, but I don't think he's leading by enough for me to put it safe there. Nebraska second, we have no data out of it. New Mexico, Trump is still down a little bit, so I'd say this is probably a realistic, kind of electoral map here in terms of like the battlegrounds, and I think Trump really is winning Nevada and Georgia and North Carolina by a lot. And you could even say maybe even Arizona, because if you look at the margins here, Arizona, Trump is up by 5 in a two-way race. That's outside the margin of error by like, he would, even if the margin of error 3.5% swings towards him, he still wins by 1.5 points. In the aggregate 4.7 here, he'd still be winning the state by around a point or so. So he may even be out of the margin of error in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Georgia, he leads by like 6.5 in a two-way race, or through the 5-way race. In Nevada, he leads by 7.5%. in the five-way race. 7.5. Even if the polls underestimate Trump by like 4 points in Nevada, which could happen just because Nevada's tended to overestimate Republicans before and Trump, I still don't think Trump would end up winning, or I still think Trump would win if he's really leading by, you know, this much. Even here, like at that point, that puts Trump basically set to win Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina. He's pulling up there by like 9. So that really puts all these states, you know, basically DOA for Biden. So Trump really has a floor of around 268, you know. And so that's really what's kind of happening there. And so right now, I think Trump's got a pretty good chance to win the Electoral College as of right now. And so that's really what's going on. What's going on in the Discord server? I saw something that somebody is talking about something in the Discord. I don't understand what's going on here. Yeah, I'm just kind of glancing at it. I don't necessarily think there's anything like super wrong here. I don't really know what's going on there. But either way, we're actually only 8 subscribers away from 9.3K, guys. So that is pretty awesome. But guys, I am more than likely going to end up leaving right now. Well, actually, I almost completely forgot what I was going to say. You know, I completely lost track of the stream. But basically, Trump did save the GOP because now Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and Texas are basically out of reach for Democrats on the national level. So really, the Republicans only need to win North Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania to win elections. Their floor is a little bit more, you know, a lot higher. And you could even make the case that even North Carolina could be a state that more than likely would be in that floor as well. Minnesota and Maine at large could probably be in the Democratic floor more than likely. So Trump is 10 electoral votes ahead of Biden in this battleground map. And, you know, Georgia may even lean to Republicans if black turnout is pretty low. And that puts Republicans very short of winning the White House. I mean, Arizona could be lean possibly for the Democrats. So, and maybe Nebraska's second can be included. So maybe the Democratic floor is 237, the Republican 251, which really leaves Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania up for grabs there. And so, guys, that is pretty much it. Donald Trump made gains for the GOP. Tommy Lee for 5. Thank you very much. I appreciate this super chat. I greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to like the there it goes. I was trying to like it. I don't know why it wasn't going through. But guys, if you guys did enjoy the live stream, please hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to follow the Twitter, and join the Discord in the description down below. And I will see you guys very soon.